Okay, so let's learn about Python dictionaries. Now here's the idea. You can have normal variables, x equals 3, y equals Fred, and those variables hold a single number or a single boolean or a single string. That's what they do, right? Now we also talked about lists. They're also called arrays in some other languages. They're basically the same thing. And what lists do is they hold a sequence of values. So for example, if x is a list, you can talk about x bracket 3, and what you're doing is you're accessing here's where you have to be careful, fourth element in the list, right? Now what dictionaries do is that they hold values that are associated with arbitrary indexes, not just integers like 1, 2, 3, but arbitrary things. They aren't necessarily, oops, I wrote this wrong, they aren't necessarily integers, okay? They could be strings. So for example, grade of calculus, right? So you can think that I have a grade dictionary and it has an entry for calculus and another entry for composition, another entry for data science and so on, okay? That's the plan, right? I can also have a dictionary called age, and age has an entry for Betty, right? It would also have an entry for Sally and an entry for Sam and for John and so on, right? That's what you see in age. So you have an entry for lots of people that you can access by giving their name. Here is the temperature dictionary. And so temperature sub Laramie might be, let's see, today is like 60, okay? Temperature sub Denver, right, might be 80, for example, right? Now here's a slightly fancier one. Everything we've done here, the index is a string. Okay, but in here, the index is actually a pair. And a pair looks like parentheses, something, comma, something. Okay, that's what a pair is. And this is a pair that happens to have two strings, Ohio and Miami. Maybe the reason is that you might have thought to say populations of Miami, right? But then you realize, oh, there's one in Ohio, there's one in Florida. I need more detailed. So let's make it a pair, state, city. Okay, if you use a pair, you actually don't need those parentheses. You can just say something, comma, something. And so population Ohio, comma, Miami is actually the same as the line above. So both of those work just fine. And that's what a dictionary is. That's what we want to do. So let's actually try to use a dictionary. I would like to initialize the dictionary so it has some data. This is the capitals dictionary. So what I want is to have the entry for each state. Capitals of Alabama is Montgomery. The capital of Alaska is Juneau. Wyoming, of course, is Cheyenne. So the way that I can build it is I start here. Open brace, close brace, that is an empty dictionary, right? So capital starts out as an empty dictionary, and then I add one line at a time. So here is capital sub Alabama. So Alabama is the index, right? There's nothing in there because capitals is an empty dictionary, but I am adding Montgomery. So capitals of Alabama is Montgomery. Once I execute that line, if I use capitals bracket Alabama anywhere in my code, I'll get Montgomery. Okay, this is the capital of Alaska and the capital of Wyoming. And you can see that I could have, 50 lines like this, and I will have all of the capitals in a dictionary. Okay, this is another way to initialize the same dictionary. You say capitals equals, and here is here is an open brace, okay, and here is the closing brace, okay, and then you have the index or the key. We should have called this a key, colon, right, and then the value. So this is a way of saying capitals of key, right, capitals bracket Alabama bracket. That's actually Montgomery. Okay, capitals Alaska is Juneau. So you see this does the exact same thing as we did in the previous slide. It's just a way of specifying all the values at once. Okay, now let's use it. You can say destination is equal to capitals and square brackets, just like with lists, right? And then the key, Wyoming. And so now destination is going to have Cheyenne. Okay, I would like to go to the capital of Wyoming. So I could execute a statement like that and it would set my destination to Cheyenne. Now, on the other hand, I can look for capitals of WY. The problem is I never set that, right? I never had anything that looks like capitals of WY. So that will actually be an error, right? That will actually give you an exception as you're running the code that says, hey, you're accessing capitals of WY, but there's no such value for that key. So I'm going to complain. All right. Sometimes you actually want to check to see if an entry is in the dictionary. So you can do that very simply by saying if entry in and then the dictionary, right? So for instance, this is capitals. We have Alabama, Alaska, and Wyoming. Alaska in capitals is true because capitals actually has an entry for Alaska. However, DC in capitals is false because you see there is no DC entry here. It's just Alabama, Alaska, and Wyoming. So in this case, if you run this code, you'll get DC must not be a state because, well, it really isn't a state, right? So that's a way that you can actually defend yourself, right? You don't just say capitals of DC because if you do that, it'll actually break and go, hey, there is no such thing. But by putting that if statement first, then that protects you. You can check, maybe in the else part, you can do something more intelligent, okay, than just printing that error message. Now, something else you're going to have to do is you're going to have a dictionary and go through each entry in the dictionary. Remember, with lists, you might want to go through each entry in the list and use the for loop for that. For E in list, then would go through and execute the body of the for loop once per element in the list. Okay, so that's what we have here. So here is the population. This time I'm associating the population in millions with the state. So Alabama is 4.86 million. Wyoming is 0.58 million. Okay, so those are just numbers. This is a dictionary that maps. The keys are string, but the values are numbers. And I'm going to try to find the total population of the country by adding up the populations of the state. So how do I add up all the elements of a list? I initialize my counter to, or as you say, accumulator. I initialize that to 0. And then I hop in a loop, right? And then I add to my counter each time through the loop. So in this case, my loop goes for each state, right? And right here, we say population.keys. Those are all the keys. It is a list of keys in the dictionary. So what are the keys? They're Alabama, Wyoming, and there should be a bunch of keys there in the middle, right? So that's what the keys are. It's a list that has those. I want to warn you, they're not in any particular order, okay? Wyoming could be the first one, could be the last one, could be somewhere in the middle. There's actually no way to know. It's not like it sorts them before it prints them. It's just, here are the keys, right? That syntax that has the curly braces is meant to suggest to you that what we're talking about is a set, okay? So don't expect an ordering, right? Now, state is one of those things. So state is Alabama, that is Arkansas, whatever. Then finally it's Wyoming, right? I'm assuming an ordering, even though I just told you there isn't one, right? But I don't know what it is, so I might as well claim that it's alphabetic, even though it isn't. Just it's something, 50 states, right? So this will loop here 50 times. And each time we'll have a different state. So what I'll do is I'll add the population of that state into total pop. At the end of this, you see, total pop will have the sum of all the populations of all states. If you ignore DC, that should be the population of the country. My guess is round of error will kill you. It won't be quite what you think. Okay. Now, population.keys is the way that I get all the keys of a dictionary. So that's what I need to be able to loop over it. There's actually a shorthand. You can simply say for something in and then the name of the dictionary, and it will actually do the same thing as population.keys. It just knows that in that context, what you mean by the dictionary is the list of keys that belong to it.